So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to have you sign into this Classkick assignment. I didn't create like a portfolio for those of you that were on the new user training, so I'm just going to have you sign up using a basic account. So I'm going to give you the code and then you'll just type in your name. Please only use your first name just for your own privacy. Yeah, so let's go ahead and where's my, okay, we'll just do. Okay, so go ahead and if I could get everybody to navigate to this class code for Classkick. And I'm gonna meet you guys over there real quick, so. And I will put the code up again just in a second. So right now, see, I just used a roster that I've already been using. So there's going to be a ton of people. So one of the things that I can filter on so that it's not so overwhelming is to do hide students who haven't started the assignment. So I can see that I can just see who's already here. So that's something, if you ever have a roster where it's extremely hard to be able to manage everybody's work, that's a filter that you can use. So I see about 8 of us so far, so I'm gonna wait.
Kimberly?
Yes, ma'am.
Adar had a question about video recording.
Yes. Can you read? Do you mind reading it?
Yeah, I was just putting in the code.
Okay.
I know that there is an option for a teacher to audio record. What about video record so a student can see the teacher?
Yeah, so if you're gonna wanna include video recordings, you're gonna wanna do that separately with like cam, or what is it? Like a Screencastify or Screenomatic or something like that, and then you can just insert the link. A lot of times I have it linked to like my YouTube account, and especially Screencastify is what I use. That's this little button up here. So I just would make it real quick in that, and then either save it to my Google Drive. But they don't have the ability just to do it automatically like with the other recording tool. Okay, so it looks like we have about 10 of us in here. I'm going to give us about another minute.
Kimberly, on my iPad, every time I sign in, I go straight to my teacher. How do I get out of my teacher so I can be your student?
You got to log out in the left lower corner, I believe.
I've got it. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
You're good.
I'm having trouble finding where to put in the code as well.
So if you go to regular Classkick.com, this is how your students, if you always can share a link with them, but this is how your students can access it. If you don't share the link exactly, they'll just go to login and then to student, and then they'll just type in the code right here.
Oh, okay, perfect. Got it. Can you put the code back up for me, please? Sorry.
Yes, ma'am. There you go.
Thank you so much.
Okay, about another minute before we're going to get started. And if you need to just watch, that's totally fine. Just saying you're not on the roster. Did I lock this roster? Hold on one second. Classkick Math PD. Lock options. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so that's one thing that you can do once your roster is good, is to lock it so that only your other students can be on there, because if they even type their names in slightly different, it is going to create a new account. So those of you that weren't allowed in, I forgot I had locked that old roster temporarily, so it should now let everybody in.
Will solve a lot of our problems, period.
Okay. Okay, so I know that was a little bit annoying for right this second, but as I said, that's actually a good thing in your class so that kids don't make duplicate accounts and whatnot. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And yeah, so please try again if you weren't able to get in.
I'm not able to get in.
You're not able to get in?
It says that my name's not on the roster.
Yeah, so if you could press submit again, I just unlocked the roster. That was a, yeah, you have to refresh, and then my apologies on
After the
that.
code, is there anything after the number 8? I have my screen split, so I think it's cutting off part of the code.
Okay, let me go back.
It's telling me that it's not on roster again, and it's not letting me when I refresh it.
Okay, so the code should be, sorry, my internet is lagging.
You're okay.
Can somebody type the code in the bottom one more time? So AXDDD and then 8.
Let me try again.
Kimberly, someone did ask, how did you lock the roster?
So I'm actually gonna go back to that in just a couple of minutes, because it is part of another thing for later. So I will make sure that you know how to do that. It's a big screen on one of the slides because it is something that's super important. So I'm gonna make sure to get back to that in just a second. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start. So our agenda, we're gonna talk about student account setup. This is one of the things that's extremely important because a lot of times if you get the accounts set up incorrectly, if kids get basic accounts or duplicate accounts, it's one of the things that stresses people out the most. And then we're going to talk about things to start or think about before you start, keys to a successful first day, working with students while video conferencing, and I'm going to do some modeling. Student assignment organization, exporting answers, work, and grades, grading, making assignments quickly, other types of pages, group work, and then I'll pause for questions at the end. So there's kind of a lot of stuff to go over and whatnot. Okay, so here's some of my information. I'm very active in the Facebook group, so if you wanted to join that, that's probably the place that I am the most active and will, if you have questions, I respond on there pretty quickly. I have Twitter that I'm using more. Instagram I need to get into more. I also have a YouTube channel where I'm going to be putting videos up that are kind of shorter and just very specific. I also have some of my shared assignments are on this link. There's some math manipulatives and also some overlays for SPED that are in there that might be helpful to you. And there's a link to things from this presentation and also from the math presentation. So I try to provide more links to specific questions that people have or resources that people are needing. Okay. And then, okay, so we're going to talk very quickly again about basic accounts versus portfolio. So please make sure you realize that basic accounts are when a student accesses just one assignment at a time. And you would give them a code or a link and they're going to have access to only that assignment. And the students, just like today when you signed in just with your name. There was no security or password. So sometimes people, I don't know if Doug is in here tonight again, but one trick that he uses with basic accounts is that he'll have the students type in their name and then 2 numbers of their choosing so that it gives them a little bit of extra security on there. So portfolio accounts, the student can access all of their assignments in one place and it has the added password, and then teachers can provide a direct link or code, or a lot of teachers will, instead of providing codes at all, they'll just make sure that their organization is really good so that kids can kind of navigate. And with that, naming conventions, if you're going to use portfolio, is very important. So I'm going to pause for a second to see if there's any questions that people have about portfolios or basic accounts. Do we have any questions?
I have one quick question, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
How do I get back to those links once we're done with this training?
The links that I just gave you?
Yes, like the Facebook page and the math training from yesterday, all that.
You can, if you keep that class code, you can go, you can just go back in and still type your name and it'll still give you access to that assignment. So yeah, that's one of the ways that you can do that, because you'll still be on the roster. And I'll
thank you.
make sure not to lock it this time. But even if I locked it, you would still be in as long as you type your name. Okay, so there's some videos on my YouTube channel about creating student accounts. I'm not going to go over all the different ways, just because some people will choose to do them in advance for the students, which is what I recommend. And then some people will choose to do them in real person. And I already have at least one video on it, but I'm going to try to create some other videos of the other different ways. The biggest thing is that you need to make sure that you lock your roster. And the reason why is to avoid duplicate accounts. Kids get super frantic if they do some work on an assignment and they, for example, my name's Kimberly Abdul. If I put Kimberly space Abdul one time and then just plain Kimberly the next time, or Kimberly double space Abdul, they're going to have a different account and they're not going to see their work anymore, and they're going to start getting frantic that you lost their work or something like that. And so it's very stressful for them. Also, you want to make sure that the students have the correct type of account, and whenever they click on a link or type in a code and then type their name, that is accessing a basic account, which means that that kid is only going to have access to that assignment and that assignment only. So I'm gonna go ahead and show us real quick how to do this. And there's also videos. One of my favorite things in Chrome is duplicating tabs, so that if you are working on something and you need to, if you need to get out of it or you need to use some of the information, it's just very helpful. Let's see, let me make sure. So I'm going to go ahead and go Classkick Math PD. Oh. Sorry, one second. So there's multiple ways you can get there. You can get there by just going to the normal page where it says rosters on the side. Or if you're within like an assignment like I am right now, you can go to manage roster. And then in the upper right hand corner, there's this little drop down and it'll say lock options. And you're gonna wanna click on the top one, the one that says lock this roster. If you use single device login, that would be if you didn't want two kids to access the device from or the same account from different computers. I'm not 100% convinced that the single device login works perfectly, but the lock roster really will help. I also put some screenshots on your screen to kind of help you navigate to where it is, okay? You'll also notice that you can include GIF images. You just have to insert them as pictures into your assignment. Any questions about locking rosters real quick?
Can you show just really quick one more time how you locked it?
Yep, so if I'm on the roster, I go up to the upper right-hand corner and where the three dots are, and you click lock options, and it's just the top one.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And again, you're going to want to do that so that kids don't create duplicate accounts, or so that they don't accidentally create a basic account once you've already had them all set up. Okay, so Another thing that I'm going to encourage you to do when you're starting is to always create a model student account. So like a fake account that you can use. So if you're using portfolios with your student, please create a fake account for yourself. And you can use it to guide and model for kids where to go. And it's also a place where you can include an answer key. So if you want to have an answer key, you can put it in as the work for that student. You don't have to be logged in as the student to do that. You can just, even on their screen, copy and paste the different keys. And I will show how to do the gifts later on and whatnot. So, and if you're going to use a fake account, you probably want the name on it to be something like AAA or ZZZ. So it either goes at the very top or at the very bottom of your roster, depending on if you want to be able to see it. At the very top, if you wanted to use it as like an answer key, or at the very, very bottom, if you just don't want to see it at all, except for when you're modeling to students. Okay, any questions about pretend accounts and how you can use them to model things for students? No? Okay, so some guiding thoughts to help you think about things as you're getting started on Classkick. Especially if you're a portfolio user, you really want to make sure you have a good organizational system before you get started so that kids can kind of know where to go. You also want to have a good way of how to tell the students how to ask for help versus how to turn in assignments. So one common error that students have is that they don't realize how they can turn in assignments, or the fact that they're automatically saved. And so if you always are having them raise their hand, you want to be careful about that, because if you're using it in live instruction to also give feedback, you may not want all the hands everywhere. It might become unmanageable. So as we're going through things today, that is something that I'd like for you to think about. Also, classroom norms for asking for help. It can be very, very, very overwhelming to answer questions all the time. You're going to find you have a lot more hands in class. And so there might be times where, like for example, during my warm-ups, I monitor work a ton, but then at other times when I'm working one-on-one, I don't monitor students' work as much. And so I just need to make sure to communicate with kids what the expectations are about, like how much help they're going to be able to get from me. And then also what you want them to do while they're waiting to get help. Because just like kids, in class, they don't, they'll say, oh, well, I raised my hand once. Well, in Classkick, it doesn't take their hand down, but you still might have kids that are like, well, I'm waiting on you. I asked a question. And when you have 40 hands raised, even if those hands are only from 10 kids, it can be very exhausting to answer those. And so you want to make sure that they know that they can go on in the assignment, or if you want them to use peer helpers. Also consider what you're going to, or how you're going to manage late assignments. That can be a little bit tricky with locking rosters or locking assignments for kids that are late, and there's no time stamps on Classkick. So those are just a couple of guiding things for you to think about while we're going over this other stuff. Okay, as far as your first day, here's one of the biggest warnings is rosters. When you first have students onto rosters, it has the student helpers toggled on. Most people do not want kids jumping on other people's screens until they can set up norms about what to do with that. So you may want to make sure that your roster, your helping peers, is toggled off. Does everybody know how to do that? Does anybody have a question on how to do that? Also, you're going to want to show them the teacher view of the screen. So one of the things that I do when we first start working is that I show them my teacher view, and I show them how I can see what they're writing. It's very powerful for them to realize that you can actually see everything in real time, because if you've ever used something like Nearpod, the teacher only sees the work after they press submit. And so it's important for them to know that you're seeing it in real time. Also, you're going to want to use that that trial student account to model where to find things. And you're going to want to use an assignment that lets them practice features. Okay, so this next little part right here, I'm going to highlight right this portion. Yes, I will show how to toggle it off. So common clarifications, and I do have a video on my YouTube channel that shows these 4 specific things. So you will want to make sure kids know how to use manipulatives. A lot of times they don't go on the, they'll be like on a pen and then it won't work. Typing and fill in the blank, picture orientation, and how to turn things in. And these are some other things that you might want to show them how to do. So, and I can show you in this little assignment that I have here. Oops. And let me show this first, how to toggle off peer helpers. Sorry, my internet is it here. Oh, yeah, I think you should be able to find me just by my name under YouTube, and I'll fix that link later today. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. All right, real quick. While I'm going over how to do this, one thing just to know is that internet speed for Classkick, if you're using stuff at home, you may need to increase your internet speed. Classkick has been working a lot on making sure that it doesn't go slow for people, but you do probably need an increased amount of internet speed just in general. So just keep that in mind as you're starting to use it with a whole bunch of students. So helpers, you can toggle them on or off right here in the assign tab of the assignment, and also in the view work, there is a filter here where it also will say if you are going to allow peer helpers or showing students their grades. So those same 4 little things that you can see right here are also found on the assign page. Okay. Okay. And then let me get real quick. I'm going to move over here. Okay. So some of you may want to show students how to use that they may not think of just by playing around with a pretend or with an assignment. Let me go really quick here. I'm going to snap my screens. Okay, you also might want for them to know that this bell right here is how you would access feedback. So if you leave them feedback on a page, they're going to get a notification here that they got feedback. They also can view all of the pages of an assignment. If they click up on this little left-hand corner, it'll show them all the different pages, which can be helpful if they're trying to review feedback or just even knowing what other things you might be asking them to do. They also can export their work, and I would be very careful about showing them this if you don't if you're trying to use it for like testing. But just in general, they are able to export their assignments to PDF. Another thing, if the teacher makes a comment on their page, and I'm gonna kind of go backwards here so I can comment. So if the teacher makes a comment on their page, they can actually turn off that sticker. Oh my goodness. sorry, I think I double clicked. So they can click on this little swirl right here and that will turn that off. And then the last one, let me get back to this page. Oops. Is that you can show them how to get to the dashboard if it was on Pro. And there's also under here, they can also send messages to teachers. I don't really like this feature as much, but they can send little messages that'll go back and forth from the teacher right there. And the benefit of that is that if you want like a record of what was said, if a student writes on a screen, they can always erase their writing, but in the chat messaging, that will stay there permanently. Okay. Any questions about those first day ideas? If you're doing good, please say good. Need some interaction here. If you have a question, please put a question mark or something.
Good.
Good.
Good. Good.
Okay, voices.
Good.
Thank you. All right.
Great.
Yay. Is the export for basic and pro? I think it actually might just be for pro. I'm not 100% sure. I can send a link. Can somebody take a note that I'll send a link to what the difference is between the features? There's a part of the website that'll show you that. Okay, so here, this next couple pages is just an example of somebody else's first day assignment where they kind of play with the students can play with the different features. I know in the new user training, I actually had people go through and try all the different features. Again, earlier I said kind of the ones that they're gonna potentially have problems with. There's a link to the template right there. So if you want to just snag this and make it your own, there's where you can do it there. All right, let's see. I'm gonna go over a couple more pages and I'm gonna do some modeling. I'm gonna ask you to be gracious with me here because it's very strange to be modeling how to do something on technology while using technology and everything. So, but I do wanna kind of help. Oh, one other thing is you may wanna include a page for the students. Anytime that they have these fill in the blank boxes, you can export the answers. And so this little sheet that I put on there is not part of that template, but, and I did it kind of quickly, so it honestly doesn't look very beautiful. But a lot of times the first day of school, like I will get all of this information from my students because sometimes students' information in the grade books are not completely accurate. And so you can get their information. They can also put like X's in these boxes near the extracurriculars that they're in, which is really helpful if you need to contact coaches just for discipline issues or anything, and you can kind of have that information super early. Okay, so next thing, I'm gonna talk about working with students during video conferencing. And so what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to actually model some things. And so I want for everyone to work on the warm-up. I know that right now not everybody has tablets or it might be hard to write. So you can either type or draw or take a picture of your work. I am going to display the work just because I'm going to model kind of what we can do. So if everybody can just do the warm-up real quick. And I'm going to still show you what my screen will look like here on page 19. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to do the warm-up. So till 6:34. Okay, so when I have students do warm-ups, I usually will have all their answers. I'll just view one page at a time. A lot of times during the warm-up, I'll use like a sticker wand. Yeah, you can put a timer on. Yeah, there's no timestamps on Classkick, so you can like lock the assignment at a specific time, but you actually have to go in and do the locking. So that's something else to kind of know. So during warm-ups, a lot of times I will observe kind of what everybody's doing. I won't necessarily display it for kids because I wouldn't necessarily show them this screen, but that would be a time that I monitor a lot, and I might even prompt people for like what strategies that I am seeing that are really good. And so that can just be something that you do. Another thing that you can do is once you have already gone through it, you can click on a certain student's page. So for example, I see Heather's work has a lot of work shown here, and so I can show everybody what her work looks like. Another thing you can also do is, and so a lot of times I'll like use a spinny wheel to just like kind of like randomly, or like the little whatever they're called when you pull them from a cup, and you just can try to give kids that accountability of knowing that their work might be shown. It's very easy to then like go down to another student's page and then say, okay, let's see what Lauren has to show. How is her strategy similar or different? And so usually with warm-ups, it's a good idea to give the kids some amount of accountability and to observe each other's work. You can also hide their names under the filters. So if you click here and say hide student names, you could just kind of see how everybody's work is looking. So even sometimes when I have kids that are like kind of being hesitant to start, I'll kind of like just display everybody's work at the same time and whatnot. So you can do it private or not private. Okay, any questions about how to do that? Good job. Let's see, actually, I'm gonna turn this off real quick. It's also a good time, especially as you're started, to, for example, Sarah did a really good job of cropping her picture so that I can see exactly what it is. She put it in a good spacing. So like trying to prompt kids a lot about like what good work can look like, because especially a lot of our students are not going to, what is the A- and A+ below the answer? Let's see, Lisa, let me go up here. Lisa, you might just have my sticker. Nope. A-.
No, it's a green circle with an A- and a green circle with an A+, and then a black dot. I put my answer, but it doesn't show up on your screen. So what am I doing wrong?
Your answer's on my screen.
Okay, so it didn't show up in the answer box, and that's okay?
You typed the 91 up in the right-hand corner, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what you're seeing that's different than what I'm seeing, but I can see your answer.
Okay.
And so real quick, just to make sure that we're clear so that everybody knows where we're at. Okay. So Matthew, if you want to put your answer up in that right box. Lauren, Jessica, also you want to click on you need to click on the pointer so that you can actually type in the box so that the answer will show up. And Heather as well. So yeah, make sure, because what you can see is when that answer is that, Belinda, real quick, I'm going to show, and again, this is just for the point of showing some kind of misunderstandings that the kids are also going to have. So Belinda, if we look at her answer, so your answer is correct, but here, when you were here, Belinda, you used a text box and you typed in the text box. I actually want you to go on to the pointer and then click into the box that's already there for you, and that'll be how it records the answer. Your box should have a solid line around it once you've done it correctly. Very good. Also, you saw there was another person too that they wrote it with their hand, right? They did it with handwriting. Your students are going to do that the same. So anytime that there's those little boxes, that's actually meant for them to click into. And a lot of times, just like, you know, when we're first using it, the kids aren't going to realize that they need to do that. So that's like one of those little clarifying pieces. Any questions about this?
Michelle responded that the A+, A- is increasing or decreasing the font size.
Yes.
It's in the chat.
Oh yeah, thank you. Another thing too with that, thank you for bringing that up, Michelle, is that sometimes the students, if they don't have, if the answer box isn't big enough, they'll think that their answer is wrong, but that little A+ and A- will let them increase or decrease the size. So that's another thing to like let them know, especially if you're having them answer for a long things. How can I tell that their answer wasn't in the box? There's two ways that I could tell. Real quick, can I, Belinda, can you do me a favor real quick? And can you please delete your answer out of the box real quick? So you see that now I don't have her number 91 up in the corner. So anything that, if you have multiple text boxes or fill in the blank boxes, it'll only show the first one. But I can tell for two reasons. One is whatever that answer is will come up to the top. And if you have multiple, it'll only be the first one. And then the other thing, Belinda, I'm going to click on your screen real quick. Can you go ahead and type that back in into the answer box? So you'll also see it went from being that dotted line to being a solid green line. So that's how you can tell. Okay, any other questions before I go to the next page?
Hey, Kimberly.
Yes, ma'am.
When you put stickers on, will the students, does kids feedback where their bell would now turn a color?
Yeah, it'll change their little bell thing. So for example, actually, Belinda, I'm going to pick on you one more time. Belinda, can you please raise your hand? So if you, it's in the right-hand corner, so I'll show you how to do it on this slide right here. So there you go. So I see Belinda's hand and Becky's hand. And as soon as I go to the sticker wand, I'm going to just give you a silly thing. Anytime you put anything on a student's page, that it'll automatically lower their hand and it'll give them the feedback in that little bell portion. So let me see on mine real quick, and I could do like a different one for Becky's. A lot of times a good practice too is to think of what type of common errors that you're going to have as you're making the assignment and create those stickers in advance so you don't have to do it while class is working. So if I'm going to do it on mine here, so please help. And if I go off to a different page real quick, and let's see, I put mine as Abdul. So I'll see a little notification here, and then I can see that Abdul is no longer on that page. So I can either just see that they need help here, or you'll see the little hand. Well, when I go put the sticker on it, whatever that I want to, sorry, random math ones, right? It now gives that the student feedback where the bell is that they have feedback, including that's how peer helpers too. It'll tell them that their peer helped them, or if it was their teacher. So Lucy said, I'm not certain why I'm not able to respond on the screen. Let me see yours real quick. Luz, are you logged into the assignment? Okay, and then I have a question from Kimberly. If I load a roster from Google Classroom with Pro version, would I just provide the class code link for them? Honestly, as long as your roster is locked, then yes. If you are not sure if your roster is locked, I would just have them give them the link and then just tell them to log in. Anytime that you give them a code, there's a chance that they might log in incorrectly if you don't have that roster locked. So Luz, you can see everything, but you're not able to respond. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Oh, you might be on a different roster. Did you log in with that AXDDD8? Because I don't see you on here unless you put your name in differently. You can also, another thing here too that you can do is you can sort the students by their names, but you can also sort them differently. Except for I'm not seeing it right this second. Oh yes, students A to Z. You can also do students by score, which is helpful if you know, you want to give some accountability or pay attention to some of those kids that aren't completing. Okay, so I'm going to do this next little part real quick. Sorry, Luz, I don't know exactly how to help you on this. So sorry. Okay, I can definitely help you with stuff afterwards. So, okay, so I'm going to talk now about modeling lessons, and I'm going to use this real quick. If you have an iPad, sorry, it's got dented, but I'm going to actually write on the screen. So in my assignment, if I were going to take notes with students, if you are on the top screen, or I think one of the users that's on Facebook has been calling it like the master slide. So basically, if you're on the edit view of a slide, as you are talking, you can, whatever you are writing, it will come up on the screen. So one thing that I can do here in real time, so I'd already have this slide created, is, let's see. So I could just start saying, okay, well, so this is how you're gonna multiply using an area model. So we're going to break up 32. And so what does 32 break up to? So there's 3 10s, correct? So we would write 30 here. And then there's 2 1s. And notice that it's showing up on everybody's screen right now. And then if I said, okay, well, 41 is gonna break up into 40 and 1. So one of the things that, and I'm not going to actually model this whole lesson, but I do want you to realize that if you are actually writing on the edit screen, that's going to update in real time across all your students' devices, and they'll be able to have those notes right in front of them. Honestly, even in regular class, even when we're not like doing distance learning, this is how I teach normally, because it helps kids that don't, that have issues with their eyesight. Or kids that have like attention issues, and it also gives them a correct version of the notes that you can have everywhere, so they can kind of like know what you refer to later. So that's another thing that you can do with live instruction. I'm going to pick on somebody in a second to help me with this next portion. But so some things to consider about notes is that you can have a whole notebook or like an assignment that's only for notes, where like every single day that you go in and put notes, you can put it in just one Classkick assignment. Or some people instead, like for example, Barry Hoffman, who's very active on the Classkick Facebook pages, he always has the notes in line with the assignment for that day. Whereas for me, like I tend to do all the notes in one assignment so that I can say like your notebook should be exactly like my notebook. Meaning that like if I have, you know, like each page should correspond with what you have. So if this is page 1 of my notebook, this should be page 1 of your notebook. So I have a question. Michelle says, if you write in the teacher slide, does it change it for all rosters that you have it assigned to, or just the roster that you are in? Yeah, it does change it for all rosters that they're in. One thing, if I am writing on the top slide, that I'll do, because you know one of the problems is if you do that, well then your next class you have to kind of erase it. But even if you have a ton of writing on this on this top thing, you can also go to the eraser button here, and there's a clear all. So that's like a real quick way to get everything just back to normal. Now it'll only erase handwriting. It won't put like all your manipulatives back, but if you're just doing it for note taking, I usually just erase really quick and then start the next class instead of duplicating the assignment. You can only lock the entire assignment. You cannot lock an individual page. So that's one of those other things that people have been requesting for help or for Classkick to modify, but they haven't gotten to that request yet. Same thing with showing answers. You can only ask, either it shows answers for the entire thing or not at all. So this next one I'm going to ask as another teaching strategy. One thing that I do with students a decent amount, real quick. Okay, can I have someone volunteer? And we're going to be on page 20. We're going to be on page 22. Can I have somebody start working out that problem that doesn't mind if I show their screen? Can somebody tell me? And I forgot to go and update the little answer things in here. So even if it shows red, doesn't mean you actually have it incorrect. Sarah? Okay. So another thing, and Sarah, can you make sure your screen is blank first? Okay. So another thing that you can have students do is if you have students start working, I can say, okay, well, now let's start doing this problem together. So I could say, okay, Sarah, can you please break up 32 the way that it should? And again, I forgot to go and change the little answers, which is why it's going to show red. And so a lot of times in my class, like I'll just prompt students for what I want to see, and then I'll ask a specific student to actually do that. You'll find whether you're in class or online that kids are going to be very much paying attention to what Sarah is doing because they want to see if she's going to get it correct. And that's another way to basically have them do some of the work. Since we're going to be in a lot of this digital format, it may be difficult, you know, if you have something that's writing based, because not all of those kids are going to have like a tablet that they can write on. Adara says, I missed the part of how to include a model problem that you work through with students, and they can keep that example. So yeah, all of their stuff is completely saved. So are you talking about when I was going through the problem? Yeah, so basically right now, and I would have to go back and forth. See, right now I'm on Sarah's screen. So if I were to write something, I'm gonna write, Sarah, can you go to page 20 real quick? So I can see now that Sarah's there, because you see how she wasn't there at first, and then now that she went there, it says immediately that that's where she's at. If I write on this page, Sarah, you can see that, correct? You can see that little scribble that I put on your page, correct? But nobody else can see it, except for the fact that I'm displaying it on my computer, but like you can't see it on your actual Classkick assignment. So in order for everybody to be able, or for everybody to view it, I would have to actually write on the top screen, which is this one right here. That's how I could then, except for I was going to do it on page 19 on the notes part, but anything that I write on this would stay there unless I decide to erase it because it's the actual edited screen. Does that answer your question, Adar? Maybe. Okay, sure. Okay, so let's keep going here. So some other things for you to consider when you're looking at this, and I'm gonna focus mainly over here, is you can anonymize names. So if you don't want everybody to know who's saying something, you can always anonymize that. Again, you wanna be very careful about how many student hands are raised, just because it is going to get, it's gonna get overwhelming if you have to respond to everybody. You can consider only turning on answer keys during certain types of work. So on warm-ups, I don't have the answer keys turned on. Whereas when kids are practicing, a lot of the times I just leave answer keys turned on so they can get that feedback. And then if you ever get to where kids are not paying attention to you when you're trying to do notes or whatever you're saying, just lock the assignment temporarily so that they can't keep working is another way to get their attention. So I have a couple questions. So students cannot see if they get the correct answer when they enter the answer, only the teacher. Yeah, so the students can see if their answer is correct if I let them. It just kind of depends. So for example, right now, if I toggle on grades, that would then allow the student to be able to see their grades. So sometimes teachers, I can also lock it. So I could lock it before I let them see their grades if I wanted to, so that they can't change them anymore. It just kind of, those are things that you can do in real time. But if you're going to show them grades, it's going to show them grades for the entire assignment, not just one page. There's no way that you can disable the hand. That's why it's important that you kind of decide how you're going to. You can actually, if you get too overwhelmed where there's too many hands and there's like no way that you can respond to all of them, you can take everybody's hands down temporarily. So let me get back onto that roster. So like right now, if I were to get here, I can say clear hands and it'll take down everybody's hands so that it's not so overwhelming. Once in a while, maybe right now, it won't always work perfectly right this second, yeah, or it might take a second. But that's why some people, because there's not a turn on or a turn in button, sometimes kids get like really worried. And so some teachers tell the kids to raise their hand when they're done with the page. But that, I don't do that because I want kids, I want to be able to quickly see who needs help. And I don't want it just to be used as like check. Because of course I'm going to check it, you know, and I can tell if you're done or not. But so just kind of be thoughtful about what you're doing with that idea or how you want to handle the whole there's no turn in key. Okay, any other questions real quick? Okay, so for portfolio, people that are going to use portfolios with their students, one of the big things is having organization. So you might want to have some type of numbering scheme like 01.01, so like unit 1, assignment 1, or something like that. I also do W001 for warm-ups so that they can kind of know which order to go in. And if you're going to do a daily assignment, we're going to have over 100 days. So so that it organizes correctly, because it sorts just by like the alpha letters. So if you put like if you did W0, excuse me, if you just did W1, W2, W3, W4, W5, all the way, W10 would end up coming after W1. So that's why it's important that you have extra zeros in front to kind of make it so that it organizes it for them. You're also able, if you're in portfolio, to hide their assignments. So on their dashboard, if you, under the filters, you can hide the assignment where it won't come up anymore. So on the dashboard, they won't see that assignments temporarily. Or you can, another thing that you can do is you can actually, and there's there's a video on my YouTube, I believe already, and if not, I'll make sure to re-record one of what the difference between hiding and removing a roster is. But if you, and so don't panic if this ever happens, if you actually remove a roster, right, that didn't delete their work. Like their work is still there. You can go and reassign it. If you actually remove the roster like that, it will put their work into their old work folder on their portfolio account. So they'll still have it, but it will just go into their old work. So sometimes teachers, if they want to keep things nice so that the students don't have hundreds of assignments, you can either hide the assignments that you don't want them on anymore, or you can X out the roster and they will still be able to see it. It'll just be in this folder called old work. A pro account is what the teacher pays for. So a teacher that has a pro account can have students that have portfolio. Then they have a couple other different features, like they have the auto grading and the exporting. A portfolio is a type of account that kids have. So just because you pay for Classkick doesn't mean that your students have portfolio. I have asked Classkick to rename these because, especially since they both start with P, people think that they're one and the same. Pro is just the fact that you're paying for upgraded features, including the fact that your students can have a portfolio. Doesn't mean you have to use portfolios. There's people that have pro accounts that have unlimited assignments but don't choose to use portfolios with their students. Does that make sense, Kimberly?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You continue to mention about pro accounts for teacher purchasing. Can you do a pro account for an entire school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can do you can have an individual teacher have it, you can have a team, you can have a school, or you can even have a district, and they have different you can have different just depending on the license. And there's actually when you actually go onto Classkick's website, it'll actually show you some of the like what the pricing points are. And one thing, and again, I know I've said this in a couple of different trainings, but Classkick is super sensitive to users' requests and stuff. So it used to be that they wouldn't tell you the prices just publicly. And I told them, and they got a lot of feedback that I was like, as a teacher, I want to know how much that I might be asking my school for. And so here you can see, like, here's the price for a teacher account, $7.99 per month. If you pay annually, or $10.99 month to month. And then for the school, they'll give quotes. If you do get a quote, they won't be telling your administrator that you requested the information. So they're not going to go and contact your anybody else without you giving them permission to. So there's a whole bunch of different options there. So how do you set up the portfolios? You can, if I can go over that a little bit later, if you want us to go all the way through it, it's kind of time consuming because it depends on how you want to do it and if you have Google Classroom. So if I could just answer that kind of closer to the end, Kimberly.
Sure, thanks.
You have some videos on that. I just don't want to, I don't want to go that way quite right at the second.
Do you have videos on your YouTube channel about that?
Yes. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I just did one, especially if you're going to have the students. And this is the thing that I will warn people. If you are going to have students create portfolio accounts just for your own time's sake or whatever that it is, that is fine. But I have a video that'll show you how to make it so that they actually create the right type, because a lot of people accidentally, the way that Classkick has done it, the login, it's not intuitive, and kids accidentally create basic accounts, and then the teachers get all upset or frustrated when the kids can't then access their next assigned thing. So I definitely have that video recorded, and I've been trying to plaster that over all social media because it is like a big issue. But there's also ways that you can do it in advance, but it also requires, there's just a whole bunch of different cases.
Great,
That
thank
video
you.
for sure is up there. Okay, any questions? Yes.
Yeah, okay, can you go back a slide?
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask a follow-up question on the adding extra rosters to
Yes,
create.
thank you. I forgot.
You had a tab, a different tab open where we could see some of your rosters,
Uh-huh.
and you had one that was like warm-ups first period, warm-ups second period. So
Yes.
like, it's possible, sorry,
You're
dog.
good.
Is it possible that for first period, you might have warm-ups first period, and then topic 1 first period, and then topic 2? And on the kids side, it would show up as 3 separate folders. Is that how that works?
Yeah, so that's one thing that's very important is, and I'll also show a video. I'll upload a video to my YouTube to kind of show this idea. But the folders that you see on the teacher side, the kids do not see that. The only way for them to have folders is to be added to more than one roster. So let me see real quick if I log in. And I create a ton of different accounts. Oh, guys, hold on real quick. This would have been really bad. My computer is not plugged in, and it's about to die. Okay. So if I log in, and I'm going to log in. We'll see if this one has it. No. Okay, so this is one of my pretend student accounts. And this one doesn't have a second roster attached to it, except for, can somebody remind me the code that we used today, please? Or can somebody look up in chat and just repeat it to me real quick?
AXDDD8.
Okay, so before I do it, I want to show you how the kids could add another roster. So you could even do it by units and have all the kids automatically in warm-ups if you use the same warm-up folder. But let's say like we're in unit 1 and we're just finishing unit 1, and then I wanted them to have a different folder for unit 2. I could just have them already log in and then press the plus sign here, and they would enter that next code, AXDDD8, and it would take them to that assignment. But now if they go back to their portfolio, you'll see that they now have a second folder. So you could have them for like different things. And so that's basically a hack around how to get kids folders. If you want to do it, I would do it early on, you know, because it's very difficult to change the organization system in Classkick after it kind of gets started. So you can do that. I think rosters, you can have hundreds of kids in the same roster. I know for like my for my warm-ups, deleting a roster is final. You can delete students from a roster and then put them back on and you won't lose their work, but once you delete the roster, it is final. What was I gonna say? One thing that I've done in that, so you noticed that I had like the different warm-up names. So for my old geometry class, I wanted not to have too many students on a roster. So for when I was observing warm-ups, because I wanted to be able to hold kids accountable for if they were doing their work. But then when I had them do like a regular assignment, I didn't care, especially if we weren't working in real time, that there could be like 150 kids on one assignment for me to grade. And it wasn't as big of a deal for me to know like which one went with which class. So that's like another way to not make your life so crazy is if you want to like kind of play, if you're like a secondary teacher. I'm not sure about if you can archive a roster. I don't believe so. I actually have used Classkick with a couple different accounts and stuff like, but the lists do get kind of long if you use it over multiple years. Any other questions before we go on? Thank you for drawing my attention to that. I totally forgot. I will put a video up, as I said, about that whole thing. Okay, so exporting answers, work, grades. So there's 3 things that you can do. So you can export answers to individual questions, and that can be helpful for data analysis, reflection, or goal setting. You can also export the grades for the assignments, and there's 2 ways to do it. A lot of Classkick people don't realize the second way. I do have there's a video on this one for sure. And then you can also export their work, and which is really helpful for kids that have 504. So I'm going to show us how to do that real quick. So if you're on view work, why is my internet slow? Okay, so if you are on view work, you can export answers like this, and it'll ask you which roster or rosters to export from. And it's going to create a Excel spreadsheet. Okay. I'm going to go through real quick. And I will answer your question, Michelle, in just 1 second. So I do want you to see kind of what it looks like. So if you're doing export answers, it will show what the students' answers are if there's those little fill in the blanks for each and every page. So for example, on page 16, I had a whole bunch of different little fill in the blank boxes, and it'll tell you what those answers are for each one of those. Again, the thing that, so Classkick did this, actually they developed it for me specifically because there was the middle schools that wanted to have more accountability on like data analysis, and so it was their way to give data analysis. But another thing that you could do is on those surveys where you ask the kid like their name and their email address and all this other information, you can then export their information really quick, and when you're trying to like find you know, information about like which team like the kid is on for, if you need to contact a coach, it'll all be there really quickly. I also use this quite a bit to if I have kids do like goals, because if I want them to do goal setting, then I want to hold them accountable, and I'm not going to want to go back to that assignment. And so I'll just have like this Excel spreadsheet of their assignments or of their responses. And so I can say like, oh, well, wasn't it your goal to be turning in all your assignments? Are we doing that now without me having to go back through? I have a quick question from Michelle. She says, if a student has 2 teachers use Classkick, do the students have 2 separate portfolio accounts? No, they have just one. The students will see all, as long as they don't log in 2 separate ways. So the only way that would happen is if you had them one time log in with Google, and then the other one you used their email address as a, actually I think that still would only give them the access. So unless like the teacher somehow, created like a different username type of thing, then they would have 2 different accounts, but they should just only see the one. Especially if you're doing sign in with Google or Google Classroom. Does that answer your question, Michelle? Yep. Okay. Okay. So now if we're going to look at exporting grades, there's 2 ways to do that. You need to get back here. So you can export grades, same in the right-hand corner where you would do export grades. And if I had more, actually I'm going to show you real quick. If I had more than one roster assigned to this, one second. Okay, so if I put export grades, it's gonna let me decide if I want it just for one roster or for both rosters, but it's only gonna export grades for that one assignment. The other thing that you can do is to actually go in to your rosters, and I could go, for example, actually I don't wanna do that because I can't make my kids' stuff private. I could go into a roster and I could export grades, and this is for all their different assignments. So this will only do one roster at a time, but most of the time you're gonna wanna see a whole bunch of different assignments. But so there's two ways that you can export grades. You can either do one assignment for multiple rosters or one roster for multiple assignments. Is everybody clear there? I don't think a lot of people actually know that this page exists, but it's super helpful. Any questions about that one? Nope, we're good. Okay. If you're good, say good.
Good.
Good. Yay. Okay. You can also export student like individual assignments. Let me get back to where I was. Okay. One second. So if you have students that have 504s, you can also export their work yourself so that you can have evidence of things. It's also, I don't know if anybody uses T-Test. How many Texas teachers are there here? If you're from Texas or teach in Texas, go ahead and put Texas in the chat. Nobody? No Texans? Okay, there's a decent number. So for T-Test, if you wanted to show examples of you giving feedback to students or something like that, or even your announcements, you can also export the work this way. And when you press export work to PDF, now it will slow down quite a bit if you do all of them, because you can do either the whole class or them all, but you can just export it and it'll put it into a PDF. It is a good way to just show that you've been giving kids feedback or different practices that you're trying to do. So it's a helpful little feature there. Okay, any questions about this slide before I move on? We're almost to the end, guys. Okay, so let's talk about grading. So there's a couple different ways to grade quickly. Number one is to have those fill in the blank things where you put the answers in. And so you can have that auto grade. And then there's a couple different things. There's a sticker wand, and there's a tab shortcut and a G shortcut. I also just put these ones on social media. There's a video that I already put out and is on my channel that will kind of go over this a little bit more for you. So if you miss this portion, don't worry. There's like separate videos for you here. Okay, so let's see. Let's go to slide 19 on, you don't need to go. I'm gonna go to slide 19 real quick. Okay, so quick ways to grade. Number one, you can use a sticker wand here. So you would already want to have your stickers created, but then you can just kind of click through and give points that way. So sometimes even if I'm using fill in the blanks, I know I'm not really paying attention to what the answers are right here. sometimes like I may not want to give kids all the points unless they show their work. So you could have like a plus extra, however many points you're going to give them for showing their work, and you can add, just go straight through. So you can use the sticker wand. I love, love, love the sticker wand. You can also click on the boxes right here. And if you type in it, it'll actually save, and then you can tab and it'll go to the next one. So everybody, I know it's kind of small to kind of see where it's going, but it's just going from one box to the next, putting in whatever grade that I want it to. So if you don't, you know, if the stickers are too overwhelming when you need to kind of give a different type of numeric and you don't want to have to switch from the sticker with 5 points or 4 points and 3 points, you could always just tab through and do that. Okay, any questions about that before I show the third quick way? Nope. Okay, the other thing that you can do is if you're on an individual student's screen, you can type the G key. And if you notice, as soon as I typed in G, it went up here, and I can then enter whatever number that I want, press enter, it'll save it, and then you can arrow up or down to go up or down the roster, or left or right to go to the next or previous question. And you just would keep on hitting G and up or down, and it'll take you through. So if you need to actually see students' work a little bit more clearly, you can just do it this way. This, it is going to take a lot of memory from your computer to be able to analyze these. And so especially if you're not seeing student work, it's probably because your internet isn't loading the pictures quick enough. It loads like the handwriting much quicker than it loads pictures if you use pictures with students. Okay, any questions?
I have a question. What was the G you're talking about? You said that really quick. Like
Sure.
G, you just hit the G on your keyboard?
Yep. Yeah, so like if I'm on this page right now, so I'm gonna actually hit the G key on my keyboard. And then as soon as I do that, as soon as I hit it, that's when it went up to that little box. And then you just type in a number and press enter. So I do mean actually hit the G key on your keyboard, type the number, press enter, and then arrow up or down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Any other questions about that? Again, the most common screen that I use to grade is actually this screen. It's I know that the Classkick screens are actually longer. So like the kids can actually scroll down all the way here, but I really don't recommend making your assignment problems run so long that you can't see them, because then you're going to have to scroll down, and it's just a pain. So I usually try to keep my questions, you know, to the size where I could see them here, and usually I can see enough that I can just use that sticker wand and go through super quick. You're not going to want to have to scroll down. So I know like right now on the Facebook group, people have been sharing about how many pixels the whole screen is. That to me isn't helpful at all, because I don't want them to be writing where I can't see. I don't want to have to go and look at each individual page. Okay. Any questions? Nope. Okay. All right. So this is going to be a little bit of a repeat of what I talked about yesterday for those of you that were in the math training, but it is something that is super helpful. Number one, please know that in Classkick, it works the same exact way in a lot of ways that like any other Microsoft thing would. So if I have a picture from somewhere, let's see, if I have a picture off of a website, I can copy and paste directly into Classkick, right? So I can copy and paste directly into Classkick. So the Control-C and Control-V still work. For those of you that have Windows computers, if you press the Windows key which is the one that has like the 4 squares on it, and then the shift key and S, it will come up with a thing where it will let you cut just part of the screen. And it doesn't have to be within Classkick. This works all across Windows, and it'll save it to your clipboard, and it will let you paste just that portion back in. So a lot of times when I'm putting in assignments, I don't actually use this whole upload thing. I'll just cut and paste things very quickly across from things, including I'll just like have the website that I'm copying from, or the document that I'm copying from on the left, and then the Classkick assignment on the right, and I'll copy and paste very quickly. You can also press the Windows key and the V key, and that's going to give you your clipboard history. The first time you do it, you have to say that you want the clipboard history. Mine's not letting me move, so I can't show exactly because it's not letting me carry it up there, but it will actually let me have other things. So for example, like I had copied this earlier tonight, but it's still in my clipboard history. So even for images that I had from like hours and hours ago, like here's a sticker that I used earlier or something, it's still in my clipboard history. So you can always clip a whole bunch of things all at once and then just have your clipboard history to put those things in. Any questions on making assignments quickly? There's a whole bunch of other hacks as well, but there's like videos that have them in. Some of them are more specific to math. Yes, Adara, what question do you have? That's the Windows key. It is the one, let's see. Yeah, it looks like, oh, it's the one that looks like that. So if you press Windows and then Shift and then S, that'll let you do a screen clipping. And then if you do Windows V, that will open your clipboard history. That one is for, oh, I think I did it to only one person instead of everybody, sorry. It also is gonna be in that document that I put in there earlier when I had all my contact information. It has some of those shortcuts in there. Okay, any other questions real quick?
My Apple computer does not have that Windows key.
Yeah, there's another shortcut for Apple, and I always forget what it is. But I know there was a Apple user that put it in the comments yesterday, so I'll go and figure out what that was. And I know that even on the Chromebooks there is equivalent keyboard shortcuts for that. So there is the same thing in different versions of things. Is there an Apple person that just happens to know it off the top of their head real quick? Command Shift 4. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, so some other different assignment types that you could have in Classkick. And usually these things, I will, if I put them in there, I'll put an underscore if my students are using Portfolio so that they can get quickly. I always have an announcements page where I'll put like what we're doing for the day in there. I usually also have just an assignment where it has like all of our different frequent links for like Quizlet or quizzes and all these different things so that they can find things. I also usually keep just a plain assignment, like a blank assignment for a whiteboard, so that if I need kids to, if we just end up doing whiteboard practice real quick because they just need more practice, but I don't want to add to a specific assignment, I'll just have a plain assignment that's just for whiteboard. And I usually also have another page in there that's like graph paper or like any of the different manipulatives. You can also have your students do like a journal writing page. I know Mr. Hoffman, he has a specific assignment that he uses just to communicate with the kids, where the kids can write back and forth in that little chat bar. And so like if they, instead of doing like messaging they'll actually just respond to him there. Some teachers also keep a assignment just for their syllabus. And then I saw a cool idea recently for younger kids to have like a sticker book where you can go in and give the kids like stickers that are not just like for like a single assignment thing, but something that might be more special. So you can create like a sticker book for them to have. Any questions about those types of other assignments? Nope. Okay, and last thing, and then I'll stay and answer any questions. Okay, so if you want students to work in groups, there's a couple different ways to do it. If you want for all students, like let's say you have a group of 4 students, and you want them to work on the same assignment and to be able to see each other's work, you could create a basic assignment or a basic, a basic account, and you would again want to make sure that you lock it and that the kids know exactly what the name is. I don't usually say like group 1, group 2. I'll say like red, blue, yellow, green, so that there's not as many ways to format the numbers. And if there can be actually multiple people that sign in to the same assignment, and they can work together. Some teachers will have students write in different colors. So maybe some of them will write, one student will write in red and the other one will write in green. So you can kind of tell who is who. But that's like a really easy way to get students to work in groups. Another thing that I do a lot in class, it's probably going to be a little harder to do online, is that if we're playing like a classroom game where I still want to have all the kids be showing their work, is I'll have the students log in to a basic account and I'll have them put their team number, period, and then their name. So what that does is, since it'll sort alphabetically, I'll have all the people that are on team 1 all together, all the people that are on team 2, team 3, team 4, etc. So that if I am, giving groups points, I can make sure that they all have the correct answer and that they all were actually showing their work. So that's another way where they're not necessarily working on the assignment together on the same physical thing, but they are all needing to participate for game purposes. So that's about all that I have. I know that's a ton of information. So yeah, so there's, for groups, if you want them to work on the same page, exactly the same page where they all see each other work, they would have to log in with the same name. And again, I wouldn't do numbering things just because the spacing is gonna matter. I would do probably like colors or something. But yeah, they can work all the way together. There's like one thing, I can't remember, there's one of the tools that has to be refreshed for it to show up in real time, but most of the other tools, like the handwriting, they'll see just in real time, just like when I wrote on the top screen, it showed up on everybody else's. But yeah, so if you do want them to collaborate, that's a quick way. The other way, where they would type in like their group number dot their name, that's when you still want them just to have their own page to work on, but you, just for your own sake of being able to make sure that everybody's working, it groups them easier. Okay, questions now, and it can be questions on this or on anything else.